Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Today I am releasing my Gypsy bag. So this is it here. It's like a little fun cinched bag. It comes in two sizes. So this is the small and then the large is like quite large and it's a backpack. So the features of this bag are it's got this cute little cinch thing. It's actually shaped, I got my inspiration from a lantern. So that's what I've done. It's got a square base. And then in this front seam here, it's actually got a hidden zipper pocket here. I didn't put any pockets on the inside because it is quite small, but the large I did do a zipper. But again, you can choose whatever you'd like to do. Yeah, so if you'd like to learn how to make this bag, stay tuned. Alrighty, so let's get started. So I've already interfaced everything. I've used my Hefty on the outside, which is like a Form Hue 1600. And then I haven't interfaced the vinyl because for the size bag that it is, it's already thick enough. So I'm going to start by joining the top piece to the bottom piece. And I'm going to chain stitch this because we've got to do 4. So we're just going to stick it under. We're going to back stitch at the start, as always. Back stitch at the end. And then I'm going to grab the next one and do the same thing. Backstitching is both quicker and saves you a lot of thread and time, because if I was to sew one at a time, I'd have to stop and trim all the tails. Do all 4 of those, and then I'm going to snip off these ones and separate them. And trim off that tail. And now I'm going to go to a higher stitch length and I'm going to fold this down and top stitch it. So I want to fold the vinyl and then top stitch over the vinyl so that sits down nice and flat. So I've gone up to a 4 stitch length. And then we're going to back stitch, and I'm also going to chop off this one because this one also needs top stitching. And then back stitch. We're going to get all 4 of these done, and then they're done. Okay, trim that. Cut them all apart. Now, if you've got one that is your front panel, if you've embroidered it or something, you're going to need a front panel and a side panel. And then, I know the pattern says cut 3 bases, but 2 of these bases are actually the zipper pocket. I'm just going to pop that down there so I've got some space. So what we're going to do is we're going to put right sides together. And I'm going to clip this in place so it doesn't move. At the top and the bottom like that. And then grab a ruler and a pen. And I'm going to mark down from the top. And then I'm going to basically... You want to make it just slightly smaller than your pocket. So I'm going to put a mark there so I know to stop there. And then I'm going to put a mark here like this. And like that. So now I've got this kind of funky shape like this. So I'm going to stitch down to the first mark, like so. I've also marked the seam allowance because that kind of makes life a little bit easier. I'm going to go back to joining stitch length, get to that line and back stitch, pull it out, and then come down to the bottom. Now we're not going to stitch all of the bottom. We're just going to stitch the fabric part. So we're going to stitch 2 here and then back stitch. So basically once we get to the top of the vinyl. You don't want to stitch over the vinyl yet. It'll make it too hard to insert your pocket. So then, if you open this out, you can actually fold both of these sides down like this. So it's flat, but you've got your zipper pocket hole. So I'm going to use some double-sided tape to hold these down, just because I don't want them to move while I'm stitching. So my double-sided tape, this one's from Spotlight. It comes in like a 50-meter roll. I decided to start buying it in huge rolls since I use so much of it. I'd also like to point out, I don't use excessive amounts of it. I just make a lot of bags. So then I'm going to fold that side down. I'm going to do the same to this side. You can even press it with an iron. So like that. And so now you should have this lovely gap, and that's going to be our zipper pocket. So now we just need our zipper. So I've got some rainbow zipper tape here and a zipper pull. I'm going to, I want vertical lines, so I'm going to just stitch this right at the edge, just to kind of hold it all together. Trim off the tails now so they don't get muddled up. And then I'm going to grab the other one and do the same thing. So I've got fabric right sides up and then zipper right sides up as well. And back stitch and trim. So now I want my zipper to close in the up position. So that's how I'm going to sit it here. I'm also going to finger press this so that the zipper is going to sit flat. And I'm going to change to my zipper foot so I can get nice and close. I have 2 types of zipper feet. I have an invisible zipper foot and then just like a normal one. We don't need the invisible zipper foot because that's to hold teeth. So this is just my normal zipper foot. It's got a little bit of Teflon tape on it as well. You don't need this for now unless you are doing all vinyl or all leather. So now what we want to do, get the top of the hole and place it just below the zipper. And then same with the bottom so that the zipper is going to sit directly over the hole. And then I'm going to pull the zipper pull through so it stays where I want it to. And then I'm just going to stitch each side of the zipper teeth nice and close. And I'm also going to stitch along the bottom. So I'm going to do a little bit of stitching, and then as always I'm going to lift my foot and move the zipper out of the way. You just want to keep an eye on where the closure is, because then we're going to pivot and stitch across there. So I'm not going to stitch the whole way down. I'm just going to stitch the zipper section. And then across the top and back stitch. And so now your zipper is attached. Now do that nice and slowly so that your zipper doesn't move. And then just now you want to check it to make sure that it's going to zip up and down. And so that is now, all you see of it really is the zipper pull. Now it's up to you which side you want to flick it, but we're going to flick it to one side and then trim off this excess. And I did it this way because I found this was the easiest way to install it. You can also put a zipper on the inside of this bag as well if you wanted to. It's on the bigger size. I just didn't really feel that it needed it on the little size. but you can just cut more of the base pieces because they are the perfect size zipper pocket for the bag. You could also do a slip pocket inside as well. Again, I would still just use the base piece. The way the bag is designed, that base piece is perfect for a lot of things. So, I'm going to fold this over. And I'm not going to stitch the bottom of this shut because, again, we're going to turn the bag through here at the end. And then we're going to fold this up. We're going to back stitch and then go down the other side. Like that. And so that is now your subtle zipper pocket. So now what we want to do is we want to come back and we can now sew up the last bit of this side. The reason we didn't want to do it before is because it would no longer sit flat and it'd be a lot more tricky to do. I'm going to trim off those tails. Mine is stuck. I stitched over one. So the easiest way to get rid of that is to stitch right next to the stitches and then it opens out. Okay, so now we've got this. We're going to grab our other pieces and we're just going to join them all together. So you can clip it if you want to. I would definitely put one at the point of pivoting, so where the vinyl meets the stuff like that, and then we can just pop it under, needle down, pivot, and then grab the next one. So we're making a big long line of them. And then we're going to join them to make them a square. Needle down. You want to get your needle down right on that top line of stitching and then pivot. It's going to give the nicest shape. Okay, so now I've got this. And I know it looks like it's sitting funny and it won't pull straight, but that's okay. So then we're going to do this last side. You want to make sure you're not going to stitch your zipper pocket either. So maybe just pop it out of the way. Make sure that my accents are lined up. Needle down. Pivot. Like so. Trim off those tails. So now it's starting to take shape. I'm going to grab my base piece and I'm just going to pick any side, it doesn't matter, and I'm going to put it in and then line it up. Now this base piece should be slightly wider than seam to seam. So if you can see that, there's my seams there. It should be just slightly wider, like that. This is what we want. So I'm going to grab some clips and clip it together. And then I'm going to stitch from seam. So from seam on the outside, across the bottom to the seam on the other side and back stitch. And then I'm going to do the opposite side. So I'm going to grab it out. I'm going to line it up in the center again. And I always stitch with the base piece facing up because I find that easier. Now, if I was on the cylinder arm machine, I may or may not want to do it the other way. But for the purposes of right now, I stitch with the base piece face side up. Trim that off. Now before we go to the other sides, I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to snip this up to the seam. not into it, but just up to it. What this is going to do is it's going to help this piece maneuver when we try and go in the opposite direction for the other sides. So now you should be able to pop your fingers in there and it will squish together quite nicely. Like that. And so then we're going to stitch this piece. Stitch along, back stitch. I had a caught thread there. Just trim them off so that they're not in my way. And then we're going to come and do the other side. So the other side should pretty much line itself up. But we still need to stitch it. So we're going to start at the seams and go to the seams. Like that. And I think I just ran out of bobbin thread. What good timing. Okay. So before we finish with this, I'm just going to cut off some of the excess at these corners that we don't need. It's going to help the bag to sit nicer later. So we just don't need that much vinyl in all these corners. Like so. Now I'm going to hit pause and I'm going to do another bobbin and then we'll be right back. Alrighty, so we're going to do the strap now because I'm on a new bobbin. So it is just folded in half and in half again. Now this one's the width of the fabric because the fabric's quite wide, but I do put measurements in the pattern. When I get to the end, needle down, pivot. And then when we get back to the end, we're going to back stitch. And then I'm just going to pop that aside because we don't need, actually, I could probably put the strap adjuster on it now. So we go up through one side and then down through the other. And then you can just stitch across, but I'm going to do the cool zigzag thing just because I like doing it. So we're going to stitch. Oh, I heard that. That was my bobbin misbehaving. It does that sometimes when I back stitch. It doesn't love me. So I'm just going to pull it out, make sure it's got no loops or issues, and then we can go again. I always like to pull my bobbin thread through like that. Okay, let's try that again. So we're going to go stitch. You can always lift it up and go back through the first hole too. Then we're going to angle down and then needle down and pivot and go across the bottom. And then angle up again and go up. And then back stitch when you get to the top. You can also stitch all the way around the box again. But I don't think that that's necessary. This bag obviously can't hold heaps. It's a nice little one, so it doesn't need to be insanely strong. And that's pretty strong anyway. Okay, so next up, I've got my cinching strap. So I'm going to stitch this one as well. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in half. Now, if you want to, stick a piece of double-sided tape and then it will hold in half, but I'm just going to do it as I go. So I'm going to back stitch at the start as always. And now I'm trying to stitch as close to that edge as I can without falling off the edge. So it's probably more like 1/16. But it's as close as you feel comfortable with. So this way obviously takes a little bit longer. But if your machine doesn't like double-sided tape, then this is the way for you. Mine does. I just like doing it this way. It's good practice for me, I guess. But if you don't like the fiddliness of this, tape it together first. And if you want to, you can run a second line up the other side. Do you know what's just occurred to me? I should have used rainbow thread. Too late now. Okay, we're going to get to the end and then we're going to backstitch. And then trim off the tails at the start. Now if you've got edge coat, you can also edge coat this if you wanted to as well. So what's next? Next is our little strap holder. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some double-sided tape because it's going to be easier. We're going to fold it in half in the center. So we're going to fold it this way, and then I'm going to top stitch along the outer edges. So I folded it into the center, and then we're going to top stitch up here and down here. Oh, I just thought about what this week's sewing candy is going to be. The different ways you can backstitch. Because I just did it differently there, but I'll show that another time. We'll pull this out. And so then we're going to fold these sides into the center in the opposite direction. You might even need to give them a little trim so that they are perfectly even. Mine aren't far off, but it's going to make all the difference in a minute. Okay, so now we're going to fold it into the center and we're going to top stitch that down. So I'm just going to put my needle to slightly one side of it, stitch down, needle down, and you can go across to the other side like that, and then we're going to go back up the other way and stitch that side down. Now you want to try and be as precise as you can with this because it's all top stitching. So you've got it nice and close at the back, and then that's the front. I do have a couple of ends, so I'm just going to melt them with the blue part of the flame, like so. And I've got one down here, like that. And so then, to be able to get your things in it, your cords, you just squish it in the opposite direction. It makes them all round. So that's now ready for the end. So we can go on to our lining and our strap holders, and then we're done. Put it all together. So these are very straightforward. In the same way that we did the outside, we're just going to stitch them together. And again, if you want to put any kind of pockets, now's the time to do it. So I'm just going to join that from there to there. Back to adjoining stitch length. Needle down when you get to the point part. Pivot and then down to the end. Then we're going to grab the next piece and do the same thing again. Line it up, stitch it together, needle down, pivot, back stitch when you get to the end. This is one of those things you can't really chain stitch, unfortunately. So for those of you that are curious, this is a poplin fabric from Spotlight. And the other one is a Harry Potter print, also from Spotlight. Actually, that Harry Potter was the perfect leftover amount from a custom order I did. And I just thought this would be very cute to do as a tutorial. And this is also going to be the front page because I'm recording this a day early. So we're going to needle down, pivot, back stitch, and trim it off. So now we just need to insert our base. So we're going to do it exactly the same way as we did before. So we're going to put it inside, line it up between the 2 points, and then stitch from point A to point B. And point A being the seam on this side, to point B, the seam on the other side. Trim off all those tails. And then we're going to do the opposite side. Now, if you wanted to get super fancy, you could have made all of these stripes line up for the front and the back. Although I don't think anybody but you would notice. It's just rainbowy. So now again, even though it's the lining, we're still going to do that trim because it's neater when we flip it. So then here, so we want to start at that seam, back stitch, go over to the other seam, and then trim the tails. I know there's a lot of trimming with this. You could try and go all the way around. You've just got to make sure that you kind of get it all nice and lined up. And I personally found this way ultimately quicker, so that's why I'm doing it this way. So now I'm going to turn this right sides out. You get this. See how cute is that? I love it. All right, last little bit, and then we can put it all together. So I've got my two D-rings here. Not D-rings, square rings. If you're going to use D-rings, you'll just put clips on your strap to make it reversible. So I'm just going to put my strap holder through like this. I actually think I might get the skinnier ones. These are the chunky rainbows. I think I want the skinny ones because it's a more dainty bag. So hold on a second. All right, so I've now got the just square rings, not the chunky ones. So I'm going to pop them in and fold it in half. Now these straps are just slightly too big. Obviously my maths was a little bit off last night when I was cutting at like 9 o'clock at night. I'm just going to fold it in a little bit further and then voila, it fits lovely. So I'm going to stitch these. So I'm going to, hold on. Sorry about that. My child just ripped the door off the hinges. Whoops. Alright, so we're going to stitch this closed. It's also going to help make it stronger because we've stitched it. And again, I think I've overdone this one. I don't know how I did that. It's just like a tiny bit too wide. Anyway, fold it over. I'm just going to chain stitch this one. So I'm just going to put it straight in after the last one. We're still going to back stitch. Pivot when we get up to the metal. And then back down. And then I can trim them off and trim the tails. So if this piece is my front, because that's where the pocket is, I'm going to place these evenly on each of the sides. So I'm just going to fold it seam to seam and then pop that one right in the center. And I'm going to use 2 wonder clips to hold it in place. And then I'm going to do the same to the other side. So I'm going to fold it seam to seam, whoops, to find the center. And then we're going to put that. We're going to use 2 clips to hold it in place. Ta-da! Okay, so now I'm just going to push this in. And again, if you've added lots of interior pockets and things, just make sure you're lining them up on the front or back wall or wherever you want them of the bag. And then I'm just going to clip seam, seam, and one in the center. I'm going to come across and do this seam, and then I'm just going to use those two clips that are already there to hold that. Always lining up the seams. Center. Seam, edge, center, one more for good measure. So now, we've got lots of clips. I know it still looks a bit skewy, it's because it's not out the right way yet. So there's a couple of ways you can do this. We can just stitch all the way around and then pull it through this hole. Or if you wanted to, oh, speaking of hole, we need to put the zipper down. There we go. Or I can leave like a top open and pull it through the top and then stitch the top closed. If I'm going to do that, I want to make sure that it's near where the pocket hole is so I can pull it through easily. So I'm going to leave this section, this section open because I don't want to leave it where the tab is. So to do that, we're just going to start just on the one we want to leave open. I'm going to stitch and back stitch, and then I'm just going to keep folding it flat for the area I want to sew, and then pull it round. You could have also left a hole in the lining side and pulled the bag through there. There's a lot of options on where you could do that. Oops. I've gone just over that third seam and then I'm going to stop. And I can turn the bag through here. So I'm just going to pop my hand in and I'm going to grab the lining first. Like that. And then from there, you just want to start grabbing parts of the outer and pulling them through. So get the metal through. You can even come down and grab the bottom. And then just maneuver it up like so. Here it comes. Like that. And then through the zipper hole, we can just pull that last little bit through and stitch it shut. Sorry, I'm doing it in my lap again. Alright. You just want to pull it out just enough to get to where you stopped stitching, and then we can continue on. It's only a nice small gap, but if you want to, you can still put some wonder clips on it. Okay. I'm going to get one wonder clip and pop it right there, just right before we need to stop. You can add as many or as few as you want. And then, I know it looks like a big ball of mess, but I promise it's going to be fine. So just go over here. Make sure it's all flat where we're stitching. Always stop with your needle down and then pull out the next bit. Like that, and then back stitch when you've gone over about 2 of the stitches at the other end. And then we can stitch the pocket shut. So I'm just going to tuck in those raw edges like so. And I'm going to stitch as close to the edge as I can, but still making sure that I'm actually stitching on the fabric. Like that. Yes, honey? Tuck your pocket in. And then we just need to push the lining in. I'm going to go see what my child wants, and then I'll be right back to top stitch and install the grommets. And then we are nearly finished. So you just want to come and you want to push all of this out so it sits nicely. And then you'll start to get that shape. So I've pushed it all out from the inside. I'm pushing all the corners out. You can even use your flute cleaner if you've got one, or like your poking stick, I guess, to do it as well. So now I'm just going to top stitch along the top edge. So I'm going to do it from the outside, which is always a little bit more tricky, but not impossible. Otherwise, you could also do this if you've got a cylinder arm. It's much easier to do on that. You always want to stop with your needle in the down position. Down, and then readjust. So I'm just squishing this down so that I can get to the edge. And I'm stitching 1/8 of an inch from the edge. But if you're new to top stitching, or you're not good at it and you're worried you're going to wreck the bag, do a full 1/4 inch, because it gives your foot something more to grab onto. And then when you get back to the start, go probably through 2 stitches and back stitch. And then trim off all your tails. Okay, now obviously this still needs an iron, but so far it's looking pretty good. So now we just need to install our grommets. So what we want to do, we want to find the center top. So you find where the center is, and then you're going to mark the center, and then mark 1 inch each side of the center, and that is where your grommets go. So there's the center. So here and here. So we're going to do that all the way around on 4 sides, and then we are going to punch the holes. So I'm going to hit pause because I've also got to get all the hole punches and everything. So I'm going to mark the center, and then 1 inch each side of the center to install the grommets. Almost forgot. We also need to mark 1 inch line down from the last lot of stitching, because what this is going to do is it's going to hold the grommets inside this 1 inch line, which means that it's not going to pull. The grommet's not going to pull on the fabric at all. So I'm just going to get my ruler and put it up against the other stitching and literally just draw a line. Like so. And then do it on the 4th side. So this is the easiest way. I've just got a 1 inch ruler, and I'm going from one to the other side. So like that. So now we're going to top stitch that line. I've also already marked all of my things, and I've got both my cam presses here just for quickness' sake, but you don't need 2 cam presses to do it. This one pushes the grommets in, and the other one cuts the hole for the grommets. So when you buy them, I know definitely from Green Beans, when you buy them from Green Beans, they will actually give you both the cutting dies. So you'll get both, or when you buy like the grommet set, you get both the cutting die and the hole punch part, which is kind of cool. So I'm just going to stitch the line. And again, I'm pulling everything so it's smooth and flat. And then when I get to that seam, I just kind of readjust and go again. then back stitch when you get back to the start. Okay, so the only other stitching we need to do is attach the handle, but I don't like to do it yet because then the handle gets in the way of punching the holes for the grommets. So even though I'm up and down, it's ultimately going to be quicker. So now that we've got those lines, I'm going to hole punch the hole in between the two. Now if you don't have the hole punch, that's okay. You can instead just get the grommet and draw the line and then cut it out with scissors. So I'm going to do 2 holes. You have to put your whole weight on these. I have actually ordered a different type of giant hole punch. So when it gets here, I can review and tell you which one I like better. This one's really good for cutting vinyl, but it doesn't love the fabric layers as much. So now I'm going to take my grommet and pop it on like this. And then I take the back piece. Now it needs to sit up like that. I have no idea what my child's squeaking about. He's happy about something though. And then we're going to put it in upside down so that the rainbow part is face down. I'm not sure why they didn't make the back of the things rainbow as well, but anyway. And then I'm just going to squish that down. And that has now installed the rivet. The grommet. Sorry, not the rivet. The grommet. Oops. Oh, man. So I'm going to put another one in. And again, you want it so that it sits up. Because what that's actually doing is holding all your fabric in place. If you put it the other way, it's not going to hold the fabric down. There we go. Next hole. So I'm just going to continue around with that. I'm also going to stop and go see what my child's up to. And then we'll come back and finish up. So I've punched all the holes. Now I'm just going to finish putting all the grommets in. So again, wrong side. Or concave, not convex. No, convex, not concave. And then squish it down. And then we're going to grab the next one. I have actually ordered these, and they were all supposed to be here by today, and they're not. I ordered all the different coloured grommets. So I've got rainbow, rose gold, silver, gunmetal grey, gold, and antique bronze. But the only ones that have shown up so far are the rainbow and the rose gold. So bear with me, they are coming. Because I have convinced a lot of you that you need one of these grommet presses. So I'm trying to make sure that I do enough with it to make it feasible for you to have gone out and bought one. But if you don't have a cam press and you still want to use grommets and you're in Australia specifically, Bunnings has a grommet press that you can get, but you just hammer them. So you just hammer the grommet shut. It's found in the tool section of Bunnings. And you can get, they come with gold rivets, grommets. I don't know why I keep saying rivets today. Something wrong with my brain. Alright, so this is the last one. So now I've got all of our beautiful grommets in the bag. So this is the front because I've got the zipper and these two are on the side. So I'm going to take my lacing, I guess you'd call it, and we're going to go into the right side front one, and then we're going to go out, and then in and out, in and out. Yeah, I know you're probably sick of me saying in and out, but I'm still going to keep doing it because we're there. So in and out like that. Now I've designed it so it's deliberately longer, so that even when you open the bag full, these aren't going to kind of try and retract or anything on you. So now that I've got them to the front, I'm just going to feed them into the little holder. So we're going to push it through, and I'm going to have the raw edge facing out You can either do in or out, but you don't want one of each because it means somewhere it's twisted. So I'm going to push them through like that. And then I like to tie a knot in the end. It's both cute and functional in that it stops your lacing falling out of your holder. Unless, of course, you made a bigger holder and then it might still fit through. But it's less likely to come undone and get lost if you've got the little knots on the end. So like that. Now we just need to attach our strap. So I'm going to hold it with the side I sewed over facing outwards. Then I'm going to take the strap and I'm going to go out. Whoops. So from inside to outside of one of them, making sure nothing's twisted, I'm going to go up through one side of the strap connector and then down through the other. And then this side, I'm going to go from the outside, hold on, let me do this so you can see, outside to inside, like that. And then before I stitch it down, I want to pull it tight and make sure that nothing is twisted anywhere. Because if it's twisted, we don't want to stitch it down, obviously. So see, I've got it twisted. So this needs to come out. And then go up and down. And we're going to test it again. Hopefully I got it right this time. There we go. And so now we're going to go up and under. Always check. You never know when you've accidentally twisted it. I thought I did that right the first time, but I didn't. So there you go. Okay. So now, again, I'm just going to do the zigzag thing. So I'm going to start at the top near the metal so that you know that you're not going to accidentally hit the metal. So we start there. And then we're just going to twist the whole bag so we can come down on the angle like that. And then across the bottom, right to that corner, and then twist it all the way back around to go diagonally up to the top. Like that, and backstitch. Trim that off, and your bag is done. I still need to give this a final iron. Because this was a poplin, it's gone a bit wrinkly since I pushed it through. So I'm going to give it an iron with my mini iron, and then we'll be good to go. But there you go, guys. That is the Gypsy. All right, until next time, guys. Bye-bye.